This photograph shows Clive Street in Calcutta around the turn of the 20th century. It captures a bustling public sphere, a domain known as the Baire, where commerce and colonial administration dictated the rhythm of daily life. The 1905 partition of Bengal pulled these streets into a volatile arena of mass protests. As seen in this image of Dhaka, hundreds of thousands gathered in massive outdoor demonstrations, marking a shift toward aggressive nationalist fervor. But miles away from those roaring crowds existed an entirely different reality. Look at the architecture of this room. Deep inside the estates of wealthy Bengali landowners, the Ghare, the inner sanctuary of the home, remained isolated. Life here was sheltered, moving at a quiet pace that was insulated from the political unrest outside. The Nobel Prize-winning writer Rabindranath Tagore watched this exact geographic and psychological division play out. In his 1916 novel, The Home and the World, he examined the consequences of these two domains finally colliding. The story centers on a woman named Bimala. She is a traditional wife living within the strict boundaries of the Zenana. These are the secluded women's quarters of her husband's estate. Initially, her identity is defined entirely by the sanctuary of the home. Her husband, Nikhil, is a progressive landowner who refuses to keep his wife secluded. He encourages Bimala to educate herself and experience the outside world, but he insists she do so while maintaining her individual conscience and moral principles. The estate's layout mirrors the conflict between domestic tradition and political change. Through them, Tagore explores a difficult question. What happens to the integrity of the home when its doors open to a world on fire? Every wealthy Bengali estate featured a baitakkhana, an outer reception room where guests were entertained. This room acts as a liminal space. It is the precise location where the political intensity of the outside world is permitted to infiltrate the privacy of the home. In the novel, this outer room is occupied by Sandip, a leader of the Swadeshi movement. He is charismatic, ruthless, and represents a form of nationalism that demands total emotional surrender to the cause. This diagram compares the two men vying for the nation's future. On the left, Nikhil advocates for universal humanism, arguing that moral right must always stand above the country. On the right, Sandip champions fanaticism, treating the nation as an infallible deity that justifies any action taken in its name. Sandip understands the mechanics of political manipulation. He delivers sweeping, poetic speeches to stir the crowd's raw emotion, using that fervor to establish personal control over his followers. His true power lies in his ability to hide personal ambition behind the noble language of patriotism. By appealing to the pride of the motherland, he makes his specific brand of extremism feel righteous and seductive. Tagore wrote the original novel using alternating first-person perspectives. By jumping directly into the minds of Bimala, Nikhil, and Sandip, the reader experiences Bimala's transformation through the manipulative logic of Sandip's internal monologues. Decades later, director Satyajit adapted the story for the screen. Since he couldn't use internal narration in the same way, Ray translated Tagore's psychological ideas into physical movement and physical action. Instead of reading Bimala's inner thoughts, the film audience watches her physically dress herself in a bright red sari. We see her cross the literal threshold of the household, walking away from the quiet inner rooms and into Sandip's public sphere. Out on the streets, the Swadeshi boycotts demanded the destruction of imported British goods, but this focus on nationalistic purity had real-world victims. By burning affordable foreign textiles, the movement severely harmed poor Muslim weavers and small traders who could not afford the expensive local alternatives. That broader political corruption is mirrored inside the estate. Sandip convinces Bimala that the nationalist cause requires immediate funds, manipulating her into stealing her own family's gold to finance his operations. Bimala leaves the confinement of the home expecting independence. Instead, she becomes vulnerable to Sandip's influence. Both the novel and the film show that she didn't find true freedom. She simply moved from traditional seclusion into a new form of ideological control. The Swadeshi movement often used aggressive religious imagery to unite its followers. By pressuring minority communities to follow their boycotts, the movement triggered sectarian tensions that eventually broke out into uncontrollable mob rule. The Swadeshi bonfires of foreign cloth symbolize a loss of restraint. The political passion they represented quickly spiraled into destructive communal riots, turning symbolic acts into literal physical violence. This violence leads to a tragic climax. While Tagore leaves Nikhil's ultimate fate uncertain in the text, Satyajit Ray's film makes his death explicit. Nikhil rides out unarmed to stop the riots and is killed, leaving the sanctuary of his home shattered. Tagore saw the destruction of this single household as a prophetic warning. He identified the communal friction sparked in 1905 as a precursor to the deeper sectarian divide that would eventually culminate in the massive territorial split of 1947. Tagore's work teaches us that a society cannot find harmony through coercion. He insists that when patriotism is stripped of universal humanity, the result is not progress, it is only ashes.